Okay, so we can start the next chapter. So next chapter is this. Social stratification. Okay, social stratification. अरे यार ഇത് നടക്കും അഞ്ജന നടക്കും. Tell me what you know about this word stratification. Division. Strata means what? Right, some kind of differences, some kind of inequality. How many such inequality you can witness in this class? At least in normal terms, if you want to see, rich poor, if not extreme rich or extreme poor is not there, but still at least some inequality is there. Rich poor, gender, religion, no, but okay, that's a difference. Caste, upper caste, lower caste. Rich poor means class is covered, that is income parameter. So class, caste, gender. Okay, that means there are multiple patterns of inequality or multiple stratas you can see, right? If I need to divide, I can divide into different stratas, right? Male, female, upper caste, lower caste, rich, poor, or upper class, lower class, middle class. That kind of division I can make. Okay, so that's exactly what we need to study here. So there are some basic concepts we will start with, and they can ask you questions. Let's start with inequality. So I'll tell you what is inequality, okay, and then how this inequality will lead to stratification. So as of now, when you told the difference, inequality, strata, you took all as one and the same, right? You told me it's about difference, you told me it's about inequality, but not all inequalities are stratification. But definitely when I said stratification, it is based on some kind of inequality. That is a conceptual understanding that you need to have. That we will make it clear, right? Definitely when you see stratification, which means there is inequality, but not all inequalities are stratification. So why it is so is what we need to discuss. Okay, and then we will see some concepts like exclusion. You might have heard this word, right? Some people are excluded from society, like manual scavengers or lower caste, Dalits, right? And then poverty, deprivation. So these are some concepts that we need to discuss, and after discussing stratification, we need to discuss the dimensions of stratification. Dimensions means what? Just now we discussed, right? It could be basis of, it could be on the basis of, it could be on the basis of class, it could be on the basis of caste, it can be gender, it can be ethnicity, it can be race, it can be anything. So we will come to that. So we'll discuss the dimension also. So they can ask you question from this, they can ask you question from this, and then comes the most important part, that is theories of stratification. Theories of social stratification. Okay, now here we have a functional theory. That's what mostly they will ask. This theory we'll discuss, and then we have a conflict approach. This is by Marx. So what I will do is I will be covering this along with Marx when it comes to thinkers, right? And then we have a Weberian theory. This I can cover here itself, though we discuss about Weber later. Here itself we will cover. So these are the three theories which you need to study. Very simple. Very logical also. There is nothing which is difficult in this. And then comes one more topic. Here it looks slightly difficult, but all these are connected and all these are very easy. In fact, this is one of the easiest chapter, high scoring chapter also. Okay. Now we have social mobility. What do you mean by this term? Mobility? Movement, right? So that's it, movement, right? You are a poor person means can I become a rich person? I'm unemployed means can I become employed? Why you are here? For mobility, right? You want social mobility, you want to become officers. That's why you're here, right? So you are here also for mobility. So education is an agent of mobility, or education is a source of mobility. So mobility, we will see what is it and sources of mobility. Like education is one source. Can marriage become a source of mobility? Yes, you marry a rich woman or men, naturally you will also belong to that class, right? So there are different sources of mobility that we can discuss. Okay, this is all about this chapter. But if you look at it, there is not, except this one, there is nothing which is not like you are unfamiliar with. You heard about inequality. You can talk about briefly stratification in your own terms, right? You can talk about exclusion, poverty, deprivation, right? Even mobility also. I thought at least some of you may struggle here, but at least you are able to tell that it's a movement of people, movement between strata, upper class to lower class. Now, upper class to lower class, is it possible? Upper class to lower class? Why? Rich person becoming poor person, right? It is possible. Even land reform is a very clear example. Those who had that Brahmins, they lost the land, right? Otherwise you lose the job, right? So that is possible. Upside also possible. So what are the two types of mobility? Upside, downside, right? So that we will discuss. Now that is actually vertical mobility. That's a type of mobility that we need to cover. So sources, types of mobility. Horizontal mobility is there, vertical mobility is there. In vertical, upside, downside. Then there are, okay. So there are cases where mobility is possible, right? Rich can become poor, poor can become rich. Now what about caste? Can a Brahmin can become a Shudra and a Shudra can become a Brahmin? No. So there are some systems where mobility is possible. There are some systems where mobility is not possible, at least in theory, right? So that is what you call as, there are some systems which are closed where mobility is not possible, and there are some systems where mobility is possible. So what it will be? Open system, right? So then we have two more concepts. What is open system? What is closed system? So what is class? Is it open or closed system? Open system, right? That is why you all are competing. It's an open system where mobility is possible. Shudra cannot become a Brahmin. Brahmin cannot become a Shudra. What about gender? Open. Now, yeah, now with the advanced, now it is open. Okay. In fact, what you will say is, let me tell you, there are no systems which are purely closed, purely open also. Even caste also, let's say I am a Shudra here, I migrate to UP and I claim that I am a Brahmin, and then I imitate the lifestyles of Brahmin, then who can tell that I am not a Brahmin? So over a period of time, I become a Brahmin. If not me, next generation become a Brahmin, right? And this process, it's a concept in sociology. Anyone know this? Sanskritization. The very first question that I got when I entered the interview board is this: Safir, what is Sanskritization? From the chairman. Right, so this is, so I hope this is very clear, right? So open system, closed system. So what ultimately I want you to understand is there are no systems which are purely closed. There are no systems which are purely open. These are theoretical. When I say you are poor, you can become rich. Yes, theoretically possible, but practically is it so easy? You don't have access to that rich person's son, right? The way education, the kind of education you get, the kind of health facilities you get, right? It is completely different. The way you treat yourself and the poor person, he is always one or not one steps ahead. So, it is theoretically, yes, you will say it is open. Yeah, you get education, you compete, you work hard. All these you can say, but practically, you use the word, there are practical hindrances, right? Instead of limitations, we use practical hindrances. So, along with we discuss sources of mobility, we also need to talk about hindrances to achieve mobility or limitations to achieve mobility. So, this is what we need to cover. Again, let me tell you, it's a number of topics are there, but this is very easy. In fact, majority we have covered now itself, right? So, theory I'll give more emphasis on. Now, let's start with stratification. Let's try to understand this concept and then I'll make you write everything, okay? Now, stratification, I told you, if you talk about stratification, which means strata, step, right? That means definitely there is inequality. But I also told you, not all inequalities are stratification. So let's understand what is it. See, when we talk about any scenario, right, there are differences. Always, even if you talk about this class, there are differences between individuals, right? There are natural differences, there are social differences also. So there can be differences in any scenario, right? Between two people, there is difference. There is a natural difference, right? Biological difference. By birth, there is a difference. So the differences can be natural or it can be social. Now, just because two people are different, can we say there is an inequality? No, but you know that who preferred, male or female, in our society? Male. Who is superior, considered superior? Male, right? And who's getting all the privileges? Male. That is because of some beliefs that we carry, that patriarchal society, right? So then there is an inequality. So when we say initially there is only difference between two people, if you see at the grassroots level, there is only difference. Two people, biologically there is a difference. Now biologically that difference may make me capable of doing something beyond that person, or she may be able to do something beyond me also. That is the biological capacity, correct? But there is no inequality as such at that point of time. Are you with me? There is a difference. That's a biological difference. Now, that is very clear that we understood. It could be race, it could be color, it could be hair. All these are what? Biological difference. Difference, biological difference. Now, what do you mean by social difference? Kerala, Tamil Nadu, housing style is different or not? Kerala, North India, housing style is different. I'm not taking North and South Kerala because again the sessions are watched by different people. That's why I take between states, okay? So otherwise you can imagine even in Northern Kerala also and South Kerala also, there is a difference. South India and North India also, there is different. Kerala, Tamil Nadu also, there is a difference in terms of what? In terms of food. We eat rice, they eat pongal. Or we eat upma, they eat something else. In terms of housing pattern, there is a difference or not? Now, can I say my housing style is superior compared to them? No. Is there any biological difference here? No. This is what? Social difference. Right? It can be between society, there can be some other differences. Now, these differences are not inequality. You got me? When I say differences, that's just difference. It could be biological, it could be social. When I say difference, that itself is not inequality. Between she and me, there is no inequality, or between she and the other person, there is no inequality. But then, where and when this difference become an inequality? കൂടുതലാകുമ്പോൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു 100 ആകുമ്പോഴാണോ 1000 ആകുമ്പോഴാണോ? So there is a difference. Now what happens is we tend to attach some values to these differences. Now you know what you mean by values, right? What is values? Values are the belief that we carry in our mind based on which we start judging. We start evaluating on the basis of superiority, inferiority, preferability, rejection, desirability, undesirability. These are what I mean by values. So there is a difference, and that difference can be natural or social, when you attach values to these differences, what are the values? Values like superiority or inferiority, preferability or rejection, desirability or undesirability. So when you attach these values, then what will happen is some kind of evaluation will be there. This will create inequality. Now you start thinking who is superior between this, right? And who is preferred between this, right? Who is more desirable, who is undesirable. A male child is considered preferable, right? A male child is desirable. Male child is considered superior. Why? Because of the patriarchal values that we have. So difference is natural between male child and a female child. There is a natural difference only, but that becomes inequality because of the values. So difference become inequality when values are attached to the differences and some kind of evaluation start on the basis of that. Like for example, you will start judging a male can do this work and this work is better than that work. So that kind of comparisons will happen. Okay. So difference become inequality. Now there are inequalities. If that is the case, there can be so many inequalities in society, right? Between all of, if I need to talk about rich poor only on that basis, there can be within this class itself, we need to have multiple so many stratas. Yes or no? My level, your level, your level, your level, all will be different. So in that case, I cannot see only upper class or lower class, or upper class, middle class or lower class. Inequality is like so deep, everybody is different. And in that case, society is also, if you take, it is so different. So inequalities are there so many. What I need is to understand the society, or for the purpose of study, what we do is we try to identify patterns of inequality. We need to find certain patterns. So when I say middle class, there is a pattern for middle class, right? Some kind of income that they get, and their spending, their expenses, their aspirations. So there is a pattern which is almost common to some section. Similarly, if I talk about upper class, the elite class, there is some pattern. Their lifestyle, you know, the business background or whatever, there is a pattern. So inequality is there between all the individuals, but again you need to find a pattern of inequality. So when you find a pattern of inequality, some people will be clubbed together, right? Middle class means I can club so many people together. So some section I can take here and I can keep it in the middle class. But between them also there are so many differences. But I cannot study each and every cases of inequality. Individually I cannot study. So what I do, I find certain parameters, some characteristics, I observe a pattern and I take them, right? And I club them, and that's the pattern. So I try to observe a pattern of inequality and club that. So that's what stratification. So even in this class, if I need to take in terms of income, in terms of class, what I'll do, I try to find who fit in the upper class, middle class, lower class. So this is what pattern. So not all inequalities I can study. So I need to find the pattern. So that's what you call as stratification, or this pattern is what you call as strata, right? You find a pattern. Middle class have a pattern, that's a strata. Upper class have a pattern. What do you mean by this pattern? They have something common. It could be lifestyle, it could be their source of income, it could be their expenses, it could be their housing pattern, it could be their connections. There can be some kind of patterns, right? So that is what strata. So now you see this very clear. There are differences. It could be natural or social. That is very clear to you. It could be biological difference or natural difference. It could be color difference. It could be gender difference or whatever it is. Okay. And then when you impose values to these differences, it becomes inequality. Now with inequality, when you observe a pattern, patterns of inequality is what? Stratification. So that is why I told you, not all cases of inequalities are stratification. What you need? You need a pattern. So can I say all stratification is based on some kind of inequality? Yes. Stratification, when I say, there will be definitely inequality because there is strata. So inequality is there. But I cannot say all cases of inequalities are stratification. What is required? A pattern is required. So are you able to get this much? This is all about stratification. Nothing much. There are differences. The differences can be biological, natural or social. You understood what you mean by natural? You understood what you mean by social difference? This part is not that important. In society, there are differences. And that differences is very common. Any society difference will be there. Reflection, no. Okay, so what you need, now what happens when values are attached to differences? That leads to inequality. What are the values? Superiority, inferiority, preferability, rejection, desirability, undesirability. So you attach these values, then naturally that evaluation, judgments and all will come. So that will create inequality. Slowly you will start saying that you are superior, that person is not, right? A male child is considered superior or desirable or preferred, and a female child is rejected. That means there is inequality now. That's not difference. So can I say differences can be natural or social, but inequalities are always social? Inequalities are always man-made, social. Differences can be natural, right? It could be biological, or it can be social, man-made. Man-made means the clothing style, the dressing pattern, or the housing pattern, or the food habits. So inequalities can be natural or social. But, sorry, differences. Inequalities are always social because it is man-made. What I mean by social is man-made. Inequalities can be natural or social. Sorry, again, differences can be natural or social, but inequalities are always man-made or social. Okay, similarly, all stratification is based on some kind of inequality. Without inequality, stratification won't be there, because it is the moment you see strata, what does that mean? Inequality. But not all inequalities are based on or understood as stratification. Why? Because we need a pattern. So difference with values become inequality. Inequality with pattern of inequality becomes stratification. Okay, now there are 4 steps also you need to mention. Now it is going to be very simple. First, there will be differentiation. Let me just formalize it. The process of stratification. There are 4 steps. There will be differentiation. The differentiation in terms of, it could be sex, it could be normal, this one, race, or it could be anything. There will be differentiation, and then there will be some kind of evaluation, right? Evaluation based on some kind of values. So here, evaluation or ranking, you can say. So you will start judging, right? There is a biological difference, but you are capable of doing this, you are capable of doing this. First, at the individual level, between you and me, we will try to compare our abilities. There is a biological difference which is already existing, that's what differentiation. And then there is some kind of individual ranking we'll try to do. Who's better? Who have more physical strength? Right? And then who's capable of doing more? So a kind of individual comparison start, and you will start evaluating, you will start ranking yourself. That's the second process, second stage. From difference, at the individual level, some kind of comparison. So something happens at individual level. Over a period of time, what happens? The same comparison will happen at the societal level. Right? So at the individual level, when this comparison happens, this is very normal between the individuals. Now I'm explaining the process, how it could have came into existence. Then once it happens at the societal level, then it becomes formalized. And that becomes the part of society. That becomes the norm of society. And that will be accepted in society. Not only that, it will be transmitted to the next generation also. Like this is the values of society. Right? And then this is ranking, individual level, then evaluation, and then rewarding. And based on this, there are some sections, they keep getting some privileges in society, like upper caste. They keep getting the privileges. And that is transmitted from generation to generation like that. So that's the fourth step. Now this fourth step, this rewarding, that will help in the continuation of this. Because upper caste, let's say upper caste, lower caste. Upper caste is getting that privileges. Lower caste is not getting any privilege. Now upper caste will try to maintain this. Right? So this will be continued through the next generation also. So the difference, then there will be ranking at the individual level, and then the ranking and evaluation happens at the societal level or at the cultural level. Then that becomes formalized and institutionalized in society and passed on to the next generation. And those who are at the upper levels of the strata, not only in terms of caste, whether it is in upper class also, you will get some rewards, some privileges based on your position. Others will have some disabilities. Disabilities or disprivilege means what? Like for example, you cannot use the well, you need to maintain a distance in terms of caste. This is what? So this is the 4-step process when it comes to stratification that continue, in any society. That will help to continue the process of stratification also. As long as reward system is there, it will continue. Okay, now I've mentioned a term norm. Right, that becomes a part of society. That means that becomes a norm of society. What do you mean by that? Norms are the expected behavior in a society, right? Norms are expected. What is expected from you? As a student, what is expected from you? As a teacher, what is expected from me? So very important term. We'll be revisiting this later. Norm. The opposite of norm is normlessness, anomy. Normlessness or anomy or deviance. You are deviating from your expectations. You are deviating from norms. Traffic. That's not norms, that's law, that's rules. So there is a difference. You have to follow the rules, that is compulsory. You have to follow the norms, that is not compulsory. That's the expected behavior. Traffic also, there are certain norms, but at the same time, majority will be rules. Okay, now you got the difference between norms and laws. What is the difference? Norms are expected behavior. You are supposed to follow that. But even if you don't follow that, is there anyone to punish you? No. As a teacher, am I expected to dress like this? No, right? So that I'm talking about a typical traditional society or the concept, right? So you should be in a proper shirt, right? But I'm not like that anyway. So that's what you mean by norm. There is some expectation from people. So even if you violate that, no one is going to punish you. But rules, laws, not rules, laws. Traffic signal, you jump. Immediately you'll get a challan. Fine. You got the difference between norms and laws, right? Don't be confused. Both are not one and the same. Norms means expected behavior, like a widow, wearing a white dress. And in marriage ceremonies, normally you won't wear a white sari. Normally, you won't wear a white sari. But even if you wear, is there anyone who's going to ask you? No. But normally you won't wear, right? That's the expected behavior from you. Okay, so this much is clear. Do you want me to repeat once again? So this is the entire process. Differences, it can be natural or social. Natural means the biological difference I'm talking about between male, female, between two race. It could be hair difference, it could be color difference, right? So with this difference, you impose or attach values, then difference become inequality. Now this inequality becomes stratification when you find a pattern of inequality. Remember these words, individual inequality, no one is interested. Between you and me, there may be n number of inequality, but we are not bothered about that, right? Even if you talk about, I have an iPhone, you have a Samsung phone, that's an inequality, but no one is bothered about that, right? But we classify people in terms of middle class, upper class, lower class. You have a gold chain, I don't have a gold chain, right? That's again an inequality. So no one is bothered about that. So there are n number of individual inequalities, but no one considers that. What is important is, if you find some patterns in society that need to be studied. What are these patterns? Like upper class, middle class, lower class, there is a pattern. Now further, within middle class also, nowadays you can see upper middle class, middle class, lower middle class. Again in upper class also same divisions you will see, but we don't want to go to that extent now. That's not required at this point. Okay, so pattern of inequality becomes stratification, and these 4 stages, this is the 4 stages. Differences, then ranking at the individual level between people, and then ranking at the level of society. That's the cultural evaluation. First individual level evaluation, we start judging between ourselves, like I'm doing this, can you do this, like that, between male or a female. Then at the societal level, once the evaluation is done, that becomes formalized in that society, and that becomes institutionalized, and that will be passed on to the next generation, and that becomes the value of the society. That becomes the norm of the society. These terms you will see now again, norms and values of society. Right? So norms means what is expected out of you. All right, so let's write. Just draw this. This is what we need to cover. Social stratification, concepts, inequality, stratification, exclusion, poverty. So once we understood stratification, right? Stratification is this. What? You will have steps, right? Let's say lower class, middle class, upper class. Right, we have earth, you study in layers, right? You started geography. Earth, you have layers. Like that, we have multiple layers in society. Similar analogy I can make. Just stratification, exclusion, poverty, deprivation, class, caste, gender, theories of stratification. Under that, functional theory, conflict theory, Marx, Weberian theory. Now let me ask you one more thing. When I talk about norm, listen, can it vary based on society? Norms, the expected behavior in traditional society and modern society will be different. India, US will be different. Kerala, Delhi will be different. Yes. So just before I told you, a teacher dressing up like this in Kerala, it may not be good, but in US, it's fine. Even in Delhi, it's fine. Even the students also in Delhi, they'll come in just vest only. So it's fine. In Chandigarh, it's fine. I teach all these cities. So norms are different for different culture. Norms are different for different society. Okay. What about values? What about values are also different for different societies. അല്ല ലോസ് ഒരുമാതിരി യൂണിവേഴ്സൽ അല്ലേ. ഇപ്പം നമുക്ക് ഇന്ത്യക്ക് ഉള്ളത് ലോസ് എല്ലാം സെയിം അല്ലേ. ഇറ്റ് വോണ്ട് വേരി. ചെറിയ ചെറിയ ഡിഫറൻസസ് ഉണ്ടാവും, ബട്ട് ഫണ്ടമെന്റലി എല്ലാം ഏകദേശം സെയിം ആണ്. ഓക്കെ, കുറച്ച് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് എഴുതണേ താഴെ. short questions. എന്നിട്ട് നമുക്ക് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം. First one, social stratification and social inequality. Social stratification and social inequality. Second one, inequality and hierarchy. ഇവിടെ ഒരു ടോപ്പിക്കും കൂടി ഉണ്ട്, hierarchy. HIERARCHY, hierarchy. അത് ഇവിടെ എവിടെയെങ്കിലും എഴുതിക്കോ. ഒരു ടോപ്പിക് കൂടി ഉണ്ട്, hierarchy. Hierarchy എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്താ? സെയിം സ്റ്റെപ്പ് ബൈ സ്റ്റെപ്പ് ആ ഒരു അറേഞ്ച്മെന്റ് തന്നെയാണ്, സ്ട്രാറ്റിഫിക്കേഷനിൽ വരുന്നതാണത്. അടുത്ത ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ, സോഷ്യൽ എക്സ്ക്ലൂഷൻ. സോഷ്യൽ എക്സ്ക്ലൂഷൻ. Dimensions of social stratification. അടുത്ത question. So we need to answer all these. Dimensions of social stratification. Dimensions എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താ? Stratification can be seen in different levels, different dimensions. That means it could be class, it could be caste, it could be gender, it could be race, it could be ethnicity, it could be many. Okay, I told you already, right? Open and closed. Open closed means what? Open means mobility is possible. That need to be understood in terms of mobility. The movement from one to the other is possible. That's what open system. Closed means movement from one to the other is not possible. But when you're writing the answer, you need to mention that no system is completely or purely closed or purely open. There are practical hindrances even if in case of open system, but there are some avenues still available in case of closed system also. Like in case of caste, I told you Sanskritization. Sanskritization means you migrate to some other area, you can still be a Shudra, can claim to be Brahmin. There are a lot of examples and all we will be discussing in paper 2. Right, so even if it is practically or theoretically closed, there are cases where it can become open. Similarly, theoretically open, but hindrances are there so that you may not get the mobility. That could be your economic strength, that could be your parental background, many. Okay, we'll discuss all. Next question, functional theory of stratification. Functional theory of stratification. Conflict theory of stratification. Weberian theory of stratification. Functional theory, conflict theory, Weberian theory. The question is social mobility and social stratification. Social mobility and social stratification. ഒന്നുകൂടെ, sources of social mobility. Sources of social mobility. Okay, now give the heading, start social inequality. We start with this. We start with inequality. We'll explain how inequality is created from differences, and then we move to stratification, and then we discuss this 4-step process. Okay. This 4 steps will mention, and then we move on to the other topics, right? Every society contains differences. Every society contains differences in terms of various attributes, in terms of on the basis of various attributes which characterize our social life. which characterize our social life. These attributes are either natural or socially created, or socially created. Now underline that, either natural or socially created. Underline the first sentence also, every society contain differences. Differences. Okay, thus the whole society, WHO, the whole society is composed of people having natural and social differences. Natural and social differences. Anyone have any question on this part, natural social difference? No, right? When I say rich poor, that there is inequality because there is superiority inferiority. Rich is superior, poor is inferior. Correct? When I say housing pattern, here and there is no inferiority or superiority. But if I say a mansion and then a small house, is there any difference? That is there. That is similar to upper class and lower class. But what I mean to say is a general style of housing pattern here and a general style of housing pattern in North India, there is no superiority or inferiority. Okay, I'm not comparing a house like this here and a house like this. That you can't compare. That definitely, that will come under what? Upper class, lower class only. Right? And food style. Okay. These differences are not only seen at the level of individual, but also at the level of group, Next point. Next paragraph at Rediko. We have discussed about difference. Now what we need to write? How does difference become inequality? How? Values. So we need to write society. In society we impose values like this. When it is imposed, some kind of evaluation will come that create inequality. Okay, right. In every society, some values are attached. In every society, some values are attached to some of these differences. The values like Edaka. Values like? Superiority. Yeah, you're right. Superiority or inferiority, comma, preferability or rejection, superiority, inferiority, preferability, rejection, desirability, undesirability are attached to these differences. So what will happen? Evaluation will happen, okay? Are attached to these differences. Right. The attachment of these values, result in social evaluation of these differences. Social evaluation of these differences. Social evaluation of these differences. Complete ആയി. അത് അണ്ടർലൈൻ ചെയ്യും. സോഷ്യൽ ഇവാലുവേഷൻ ഓഫ് ദീസ് ഡിഫറൻസസ്. അതിന് മുകളിൽ അറ്റാച്ച്മെൻറ്റ് ഓഫ് വാല്യൂസ് എന്നുള്ളതും അണ്ടർലൈൻ ചെയ്യും. സം വാല്യൂസ് ആർ അറ്റാച്ച്ഡ് എന്നുള്ളത്. ഓക്കെ. Thus, the attachment of value to the differences results in inequality. Results in or create inequality. Both are fine. Create inequality or result in inequality. That underline say attachment of values create inequality. Next sentence. Rather, the differences are natural or social. The differences are natural or social, but inequalities are always what? Social. Inequalities are always social. Underline that sentence. Okay, so we have written two paragraphs. First paragraph we explained the difference, right? Natural, social. Second paragraph we explained values. These values, when it is attached, social evaluation, that will result into inequality. Now, pattern of inequality will result into stratification. That's the next paragraph, right? Just write one line. Next paragraph. Social inequalities exist in every society either at the level of individual or at the level of group. Or at the level of group, individual level or group level. Inequalities are exist at both levels, individual level and group level. Next sentence. There are certain inequalities which are not felt at the local level, but their presence is felt at the level of whole society, at the entire level, at the level of whole society. It means that the whole society, WHOLE, the whole society tend to accept these inequalities as the standards of evaluation. Okay, see, answer. Now if you want to write answers, you can start writing from the first three chapters. Okay, because first three chapter independent aanu, inyolla chapters ellam completely different aanu. So now you are not going to gain a new knowledge and going to add in the first three chapters. It's almost done. So if you want to write, you can write. Start writing little bit if you want to. So then the idea, standards of evaluation. Next paragraph. It is virtually impossible for a sociologist. It is virtually impossible for a sociologist to study each and every instances of social inequality. Each and every instances of individual or social inequality. Each and every instances of individual or social inequality. Thus, for the purpose of analysis, and then you identify patterns of inequalities, right? So thus, for the purpose of analysis, patterns of inequalities are identified. Which are present at the level of whole society. Means entire society. WHO only. Which are present at the level of whole society. So you identify the patterns of inequality at the societal level, not the individual level. Right? Individual inequalities you are not going to study. Different individual, differently they will have. Okay, right. These patterns of inequality is termed as what? Social stratification. It's termed as social stratification. Thus, every social stratification is based on inequalities, but not every cases of inequality is understood as can be understood as, not every case of inequality can be understood as social stratification. A sentence underlines you. Not every cases of inequality can be understood as social stratification. So every social stratification is based on what? Inequality, but not every inequality is based on can be understood as stratification. Why? Pattern is bracket le likho. Pattern of inequality is required. Next sentence. In simple terms, social stratification can be defined as a system of social ranking, in the form of stratas involving relations of superiority or inferiority. Superiority and inferiority. So what does that mean? Stratas, which is based on superiority or inferiority. Those who come at the higher level, superior; lower level, inferior. Higher level, they'll get the privileges; lower level, they'll get some kind of punishments. No privilege means punishment. You cannot use the well, right? Or you cannot enter the temple. These are some kind of sanctions or punishments or disprivileges that is attached. Okay, Litrem. The term stratification, the term strata is borrowed from geology, on the basis of identification of an analogy, between the inner layers of earth, and the abstract layers of people exist in society. അതൊന്നും എക്സാമിന് എഴുതേണ്ട ആവശ്യമില്ല കേട്ടോ, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് അത് മനസ്സിലാൻ വേണ്ടി എഴുതിയെന്നുള്ളൂ. ഇറ്റ്സ് ജസ്റ്റ് ലൈക്ക് ഇറ്റ്സ് ബോറോഡ് ഫ്രം ജിയോളജി. ഇറ്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് ദാറ്റ് earth interior, if you see, there are different kind of strata. Similarly, we have different strata. Okay, അത് മിസ്സായാലും കുഴപ്പമില്ല, not significant. But take next sentence. It is a mental construct and an analytical tool to visualize the patterns of inequality in the form of stratas. What does it mean? It is a mental construct or analytical tool. That means, can you see this middle class? You can't see or you can't touch, right? It's a mental construct. We just use it for analysis purpose, right? There is a class like this, these are the patterns, and these people may fit into this class. Okay, so that's what I mean by that. Right, next sentence. അത് അണ്ടർലൈൻ ചെയ്യണം. ഇറ്റ്സ് എ മെന്റൽ കൺസ്ട്രക്ട് ഓർ അനലിറ്റിക്കൽ ടൂൾ എന്നുള്ളത്. മെന്റൽ കൺസ്ട്രക്ട് എന്നുള്ളത് അണ്ടർലൈൻ ചെയ്യും. നെക്സ്റ്റ് സെന്റൻസ്. The stratas are understood to be ranked. Stratas are understood to be ranked. 1, 2, 3, 4 again. Ranked. That is, a particular hierarchical order exists in these stratas. Hierarchical order exists in these stratas. അത് അണ്ടർലൈൻ ചെയ്യും. സ്ട്രാറ്റാസ് ആർ അണ്ടർസ്റ്റുഡ് ടു ബി റാങ്ക്ഡ്. റാങ്ക്ഡ് എന്നുള്ളത് സിംഗിൾ ഇൻവെർട്ടഡ് കോമയിലും കൂടി ഇട്ടേക്കെ. റാങ്ക്ഡ്, RANKED. Further, next sentence. Further, apart from understanding inequalities, social stratification also becomes a basis for understanding distribution of rewards, privileges, benefits, etc. in society. Next sentence. Thus, the process of stratification can be understood in 4 stages. in 4 stages. 1, 2, 3, 4 1 by 1. So first you write 1, 2, 3, 4 and then we explain 1 by 1. Okay. First one, differentiation. 2, ranking. 3, evaluation. 4, rewarding. Differentiation, ranking, evaluation, rewarding. Now give the subheading. First one, differentiation. We will be writing the similar things that we discussed here. Okay, right. It involves the presence of social or natural differences which are recognized in society. For example, differences in terms of sex, race, income exist in every society. Okay, these differences are often assigned certain positions or roles. These differences are often assigned certain position or roles. For example, on the basis of sex and gender, both are same or not? So when you go and filling some application forms, what do you see, sex or gender? You see both, but what it should be, sex or gender? No, it should not be gender, it should be sex. So the thing is, gender means there are some values involved. When I say sex, if they want to know the biological difference, it's sex. So sex is biological difference. When I say gender, there is some value which is coming. So that comes along with inequality. That discussion I'll take further with respect to feminist perspective when I discuss. But just have an understanding, sex and gender are not the same for you guys when you are sociology students. Others may take it same. So you cannot see both interchangeably in your application forms also. If they want to know your biological difference, it has to be sex. If they want to know your perspective, your value and all, then they keep it if they want to see your inferiority or superiority kind of thing, then it has to be gender. So it has to be sex. Both are different. One is biological, the other is when the values are attached, gender is created. Okay. So for example, on the basis of sex, different roles are assigned to male and female. Different roles are attached to male and female. So is that correct? Is that understood? Like you will say, male, and they will do the cooking, cleaning works, the others will do some hard kind of works, right? So then what happens? They start evaluating who's doing the tough job, right? That's what I mean by individual level comparison will come. Who's doing the toughest of the jobs, and then individual ranking will come, then societal ranking will come. Okay, write that. Second step, ranking. These differences in terms of attributes or roles seldom remain objective, or roles seldom ചിലപ്പോഴൊക്കെ മാത്രം എപ്പോഴും അങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടായി ഒബ്ജക്റ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടിരിക്കണം എന്നില്ല seldom remain objective seldom 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 remain objective. What I mean to say is it won't be objective always. Okay, gradually the comparison between these differences starts. You'll start comparing these differences, resulting in the emergence of a vague എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ക്ലിയർ അല്ലാത്ത vague and resulting in vague informal and unrecognized rank order. Vague, informal and unrecognized rank order. Unrecognized rank order. So I'll repeat this. I'll explain this. What does this mean? Can anyone explain? So what you're saying, slowly the comparison will start, and then that will result into, at the individual level, that will result into a vague, informal, unrecognized rank order between the individual. It is not recognized. It is informal because it is between just a few individuals only, right? And there is no clarity. That's why vague. So you just start comparison and you say that I am better than you or you are better than me, and there is some rank order will come into existence at the individual level, right? That individual level also. Next point. This ranking essentially takes place at the individual level. Third one, evaluation. The rank order is further strengthened. And formalized through the process of evaluation done at the cultural level. You underline cultural level. Previous paragraph underline individual level. Underline that formal, informal, unrecognized rank order also. Informal mele. Just a previous paragraph. Informal, unrecognized rank order, that you underline. Okay. So cultural level. Slowly, the individual comparison forms part of the value system of the whole culture or society. Individual comparison will form part of the value system of the whole culture or society. At this level, due to cultural evaluation, underline cultural evaluation. നേരത്തെ എല്ലാം ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ കമ്പാരിസൺ, ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ഇവാലുവേഷൻ ആയിരുന്നു. ഇപ്പോൾ കൾച്ചറൽ ഇവാലുവേഷൻ ആൻഡ് കൾച്ചറൽ കമ്പാരിസൺ ആണ്. ഓക്കെ, സോ കൾച്ചറൽ ഇവാലുവേഷൻ, the rank order becomes formalized and institutionalized. Underline that, formalized and institutionalized. So before we said In the previous phase, it's at the individual level, comparison also at the individual level, so it's informal, unrecognized rank order. Now, it's a formalized, recognized, institutionalized, because it is done at cultural level, so entire societal level. Okay. What we need to write more, it is transmitted to the next generation, right? Just write that also. This evaluation then transmitted from one generation to other, through cultural reproduction. Okay, this finally results in strengthening of rank order, in terms of value system. Strengthening of rank order in terms of value system, which means what? This becomes part of the value of society, value system of society. This becomes accepted norms and values. Okay. Now what helps to continue this? Next stage, rewarding. So those who come at the top, they will get some rewards. So that will help in perpetuating the same mechanism. Fourth step, rewarding. On the basis of differentiation, comma, ranking, comma, evaluation, hierarchical stratas are constructed. Full stop. These stratas are supported by perpetuative mechanisms, PERPETUATIVE, perpetuative mechanisms existing in society. Full stop. Next sentence. Apart from cultural reproduction, a system of rewards and punishments. Punishment in the okay, you are not getting that privilege that others are getting. That's what I mean by punishment. Okay, so a system of rewards and punishments, comma, privileges and disabilities are attached to these stratas. This helps in not only the continuity of these stratas, but further strengthening the hierarchy. Okay, so that system of reward basically help in the continuation of the strata, and that will further strengthening the hierarchy. Means some sections will get the benefits, so they will be treated as superiors, some get the disadvantages or disprivileges, they will be treated as inferiors, and that is actually strengthening that hierarchy. Those who are at the top, they keep getting more benefits. Those who are at the bottom, they keep getting more disprivileges, right? And that will help in the continuation, because these rewards are there. The top, people at the top, they'll continue like this only. That's about this topic, stratification. Now we need to get into the other topics that we can do tomorrow, but I'll go for a quick recap once again. Or any questions from this? So I'll discuss it once again. We started off with what? Tell me. Differences, right? So differences are social or natural. So it could be natural or social. So if required, if question demands, then you need to explain also what is social, what is natural. Most of the time, 99% of the case, that is not required. You don't have enough time for that. Okay, that 4 steps itself will take you maybe 80, 90 words. Okay, so difference, then what? You said differences are there. Every society is based on differences. It could be natural, it could be social. If required, we'll give the example. Then, so when you attach certain values to this difference, that create inequality because of some kind of social evaluation, right? So this lead to social inequality. Now you write one sentence that differences may be social or natural, but inequality is always social because it is we created, man-made. Now what we do we try to identify the patterns of, because individual inequalities you cannot study. As a sociologist, it is very difficult to study the individual instances of inequality. So we identify the pattern, right? And pattern of inequality is what we call as stratification. So pattern of inequality. Do you have any confusion what I mean by pattern? No, right? So that is very clear. So pattern of inequality is what you call as stratification. The difference becomes inequality when values are imposed. When you identify pattern of inequality, that becomes stratification. Always write social stratification, never simply write stratification, okay? This is what? Stratification. And then you write one more sentence here, what? All stratification is based on inequality, but not all inequalities are stratification, because we need a pattern. So the concept is now very clear. After this, if you want, you can talk about that geology analogy, right? Earth, interior, layers and all, but that's not required. You won't have time and space for that, right? And then you talk about different other mechanisms, and then you talk about the 4 stages of social stratification. What are they? First one, 4 stages or steps, whatever it is, it's fine. Differentiation, right? Differentiation. So here you will explain every society have that differences, and then you will say based on that differences you will assign certain roles. Example also you tell based on female, male, sex difference, you assign certain roles to female and male. Right? Nursing, taking care of people. Generally, you don't want to explain that, just tell that based on the difference you assign certain roles. Who are normally nurses? Right, this is already there actually, but now things are changing. Who are normally teachers? Those jobs which need more care, right, that females do. Those jobs where you need more strength, male do. Or more authoritative roles, that male do. The jobs which is based on intelligence, males do. Earlier I'm talking about, that is because of the bias. In fact, even during British, only when Britishers came that actually changed. There is something called as eyewitness law. I don't know how many of you started history and know this. In eyewitness law, now who can give a witness statement in the court? Everyone can give, right? But earlier, the system was like this, a male and female is going, 1 male is equal to 2 female. So a male is given a testimony, and if you need to break that, how many female is required? 2 becomes equal only. If you need to break that, you need 3 female testimony. Right, that's the eyewitness law that we had in India. So you know how patriarchal the value system, right? So differentiation. Then what happens? Second stage, comparison at the individual level. That will result into ranking at the individual level, which is a vague, informal, unrecognized rank among the individual. This does not happen at the societal level. So this is the second step, ranking. Ranking at the individual level. Guys, basically I just need only this much to write an answer completely. This is what I mean by your revision notes or your exam notes. Towards the end, you will just look at the keywords and the entire answer should trigger in your mind. This is how you will make that notes. Third, evaluation. Evaluation. So here, that's at the societal level or cultural level. The cultural evaluation takes place and then the rank order becomes formalized and institutionalized, and it will be passed on to the next generation through cultural reproduction. These are very important words. You need to use exactly the same. Through cultural reproduction, and then that becomes part of the value system of society. Okay, so here I'll write at societal level. This is individual level, and here cultural reproduction. So next generation it will be passed, and the fourth level, rewarding. So this basically help in continuation of the rank order which is created. So with this differentiation, ranking and evaluation, you get a strata, and this will help in continuation of that and strengthening the hierarchy. So that's about this topic. But again, this question is also similar to our positivism, non-positivism. This is a cycle. So whatever I discussed, in the beginning I've shown you something, right? Okay. So you have been asked, suppose you have been asked about social stratification. So you start with difference, talk about inequality, you talk about stratification. Differences create inequality when values are attached. Inequality becomes stratification when pattern is found. And then 4 stages, differentiation, ranking, rewarding, evaluation. But the answer is not complete there. You need to now talk about what are the dimensions of stratification. Even if it is not asked, still you need to talk about. You also need to talk about what are the different types of stratification, open system, closed system. So when you talk about open system and closed system, you naturally have to talk about mobility. So this is again a cycle. Like positivism, when you start, if positivism is asked, positivism you need to write, it's criticism you need to write. Even if they have not asked non-positivism, you need to write that. That is how it is done. If it is a 20, but that makes it easy, right? Your job is now very simple. You don't want to write too much here because you can split your things in different topics. This is actually easy if you answer in this way. Don't think that this is complex. This is the best way and this is the easiest way. When you need to answer like this, you have enough dimension, you have enough areas to cover. You are not stuck in one area. If I need to only talk about stratification, I'll struggle. I cannot impress that examiner. How much I can keep writing? There is always a limit, right? As a student, you have, but I can talk much more. But if you have that experience, definitely you can have. But that person is having your age is double the age is their experience. You are 22, 23. They are in this field for 40, 50 years. Professors of Delhi University and all. So, what we need to talk different, right? Add different stratification, and then you talk about mobility. You need to talk about open, closed, different types of stratification, gender stratification, caste-based stratification, class-based stratification. As examples, you will give, and then social mobility. That is how you will complete. Similarly, if social mobility is what they're asking, do you think you can write social mobility answer without talking stratification, without talking open and closed, without talking these dimensions? How can you talk about mobility? Because you need to explain mobility with respect to class. What is a mobility? In gender system, what is you need to explain this. So again, this forms a cycle. Except the theory, rest of it are all together. Even tomorrow I'll be talking about dimensions of stratification. That can be a separate question I've given as a separate question. But even if they're asking dimensions of stratification without talking about stratification or inequality differences, I cannot write that. And after discussing dimension, I definitely have to talk about mobility, open system, closed system rules. So this topic, interconnected, like positivism, critique, non-positivism. And that makes it easy. That makes your job very simple. They need not ask, right? But still you will write. That's how it should be. Anything you want to ask me? I'm done. Otherwise, tomorrow we will see the next topic, that is dimension. Stop it. Okay, see you. നാളെ കാണാം.